Steve Russell of Edible Blue Ridge today on Meet the Farmer TV.
Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by Planet Earth Diversified, Melli Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design, with additional support from Culpeper's Channel 21, helping to preserve the agricultural history of Virginia, and Feast, connecting local farmers, artisan food producers, and consumers.
Hello, I'm Michael Clark, your host for Meet the Farmer TV. Recently, we're at the launch of a new magazine, Edible Blue Ridge. We talked with the editor, Natalie Russell, and the publisher, her husband, Steve Russell. And now we're going to talk with Steve out here at the farm, and then we'll go back and look at some of the interviews with the individual farmers and growers and other vendors that will be part of this new project in Central Virginia. So Steve, we were at the space above Live Arts, and you had a great dinner. I guess Harvest Moon catered that?
That's correct. Mark Hahn at Harvest Moon provided the food for our launch event, using a lot of local producers and a lot of great local food. Obviously, that's what we're all about, so we loved having that aspect to the event, and it was a better turnout than we expected, and I think everybody had a really good time.
Well, that's great. And we talked to a number of the vendors that were there, Joe Cloud, we talked to Mark, we talked to Gail Hobbs-Page.
Right.
I think there was some stuff there from the farm at Red Hill, and we actually went out and did a whole show with them.
Right, we had their salsa there. We had Gail's cheese from Caramont. We had greens from Roundabout Farm. We had so many great local producers and their great products there for everybody to share and enjoy.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you did after that event was you worked a special arrangement with Stanton Grocery where you were going to follow some local ingredients. They were going to put them on the menu.
Right.
And so we've been in this spot for several months this year watching the progression of peas, and we actually have some of the peas now. So you can see here the finished peas.
There they are. They look familiar.
And here are these little edible pea flowers. I think this is the thing that made the magazine and is on the menu.
Sure does. Looks very familiar.
And we're still sacrificing the peas to get these, so we're still cutting these up. It looks like it was
it's a good sacrifice.
Yeah, it was a good successful project because they've still got it on the menu and they're still ordering these things. So tell us, how did that work? How did you come up with this arrangement to follow some local produce?
That is it's a story concept that we do in each issue. Where we isolate a dish at a restaurant that uses and supports local ingredients. We work with usually the chef or whoever's involved and identify what those local ingredients are, then talk to the producers, and I go visit the farms, each one of them, and trace the ingredients, kind of the milestone in the journey of those ingredients as they move through the growing process and through the producer's hands into the chef and the magic that the chef creates with them all the way to when it's served on the table. I think it just goes, it's part of our mission for our readers to learn where their food comes from, and I think this is a really kind of fun way to do it. And I think the more people learn about where their food comes from, the better. And I think this is just a kind of a compelling way to do it, is to actually go out there and be a part of where it's coming from.
So we're here in the garden in late spring.
Mm-hmm.
It's not yet summer, but it's turned June. It's been 80, 90 degrees. We've had, it seemed like drought, and then we've had 2 weeks of rain, and the ducks are swimming between the rows. But we are finally getting some of the broccoli up, so I'll show you some of this now, a fresh head of young broccoli.
Wow, beautiful.
I don't know if you want to sample this, Steve.
Absolutely, you kidding? Try to stop me.
Yeah.
Hey, this is one for the camera. Where's mine?
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
You need 2 hands for that.
Our first crop of broccoli, I think when we were out looking at the peas for that Stanton story, the Stanton Grocery doing the peas, we had just lost all of the broccoli to frost.
Wow.
And so we had replanted it at that time. And so now you can see we've got the peas up and we're beginning to get broccoli out of the field.
Yeah, I think this is what it's all about. You know, I think a lot of people think that broccoli comes wrapped in plastic at the grocery store. So you know, this is what it's all about, is to see where it's coming from.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's so nice and sweet when you cut it fresh like
Right.
that. Well, let's take a look at some other things.
Sure.
We'll walk down the bottom field.
sounds good.
Well, Steve, tell me, how did you get this idea to start a magazine called Edible Blue Ridge, and how did you get started on this magazine, Edible Blue Ridge?
Edible Blue Ridge is a magazine, it's a food magazine covering Central Virginia with a strong emphasis on supporting the local farmers, food artisans, and chefs who are driving the local foods movement. My wife, Natalie, is the editor of the magazine. I'm the publisher. We both have a strong interest in that area. We both also have publishing backgrounds. We both worked in magazines. So this was a chance really to marry our passions and put out this magazine, which we love doing, and also to get more deeply involved in the local foods movement and spread the word to people who would like to, you know, read about it in the magazine. We are quarterly, which sort of goes along with the idea of the seasons, which we like that idea. We distribute throughout Central Virginia, roughly our territory with 12 counties in Central Virginia. We kind of roughly go from Lynchburg to Orange, and then over in the valley we go from Lexington up to Harrisonburg. So that's kind of, as far as population centers, roughly defines our territory, and we distribute the magazine at 170 locations within that territory.
So you have a website?
www.edibleBlueRidge.com, and we've got a new blog there that people can tune into on a weekly basis and see what we're doing in between the times when the magazine comes out. People can kind of find out some other local food adventures.
So let's go back and check out some of those people we talked to at the event for the launch of Edible Blue Ridge. I know you from Hamilton's, where we used to bring you arugula and herbs.
That's true.
And you're not a chef now, you're a farmer. What happened?
That's true. I decided a couple of years ago that I wanted to get a little closer to producing food, and cheese making is just about as close as you can get to that sort of thing. And so I started a little farmstead dairy business about 3 years ago, and now I scoot in the back doors of restaurants and grocery stores and specialty food stores, and we're making goat cheese.
Wow.
We are a farmstead operation, which means that all of the milk that we make into cheese is from animals that are on our property. And so yeah, we're very small. We're only make this past season a couple thousand pounds of cheese, and next year we hope to make a little more than that. We're seasonal. Goats are seasonal, and so we take the winters off, January off. We start freshening again. It all begins again in another month. So that gives you sort of a chance to rest and sort of enjoy the winter, and lets the animals get geared up for, you know, production, so that they're not, you know, traditional commercial dairies. They sort of just push all year long, and with goats you don't really need to do that. We take a little rest.
How many goats do you have?
We have a milking herd of about 65. And we have 2 grazing projects, one in Nelson County, another one close by in Albemarle County, where so all in total we have about 125 goats now. But that's always in fluctuation, because some are being sold and some are, you know, for meat and whatever. So
That's a big transition from being on the line at a fine dining restaurant to milking 120 animals.
Well, it's been just about the hardest thing to learn is the farming part of this, because when you're working in a restaurant and creating food that comes to your back door, and you're basically dealing with a creative interpretation of what the diner is expecting, or what you need to sell, like your food, your things that I used to buy from you. But farming is, especially dairying, is so much tied into the animal and the quality of the life of the animal, which ties into the quality of the milk, which ties into the quality of the cheese, and that is all stuff that I had to learn. And that was a very steep learning curve. Wow. It's always, we're always trying to make our herd better, and it's never going to stop. I think you're always going to try to keep improving on the milk. So.
How many different kinds of cheese do you?
We make 4 kinds of cheese. We make 2 raw, a feta style, and also what we're calling a tombe de chèvre, which is an aged chèvre in a wheel for 60 days, and we wash it with a Petite Mansan vinegar bath that's locally sourced. Then we do 2 kinds of fresh, 1 herbed, and then 1 very plain, very similar to what the French call fromage blanc. And that is currently what we have planned for next season.
Wow.
When I was a chef, the reason that I bought your things was because they were delicious. You know, and that really is the essence of what we're trying to do here locally, is that you can go and buy lettuce from California, but when you taste watercress from Standardsville, you know, you go, oh my God, that is what that's supposed to taste like. And hopefully when people taste our goat cheese, although you can get the goat cheese in one of those big blocks, you know, you taste it and then you taste ours and you sort of go, oh, you know, I get that now, and that comes from, you know, 30 minutes away rather than, you know.
Right. Well, we should get together and go to some restaurants and take the 2 ingredients together and visit a chef.
That's a really good idea.
We should get a show like that.
I have contemplated doing some taste challenges, like some taste tests, like to take Nelson County arugula, or you know, your watercress or your tatsoi, and put it up against, you know, the impersonators from California or Chile or wherever. I guarantee you that people will.
They'll know the difference.
You can see it on their faces. I mean, you really can.
Are you guys in the magazine?
We are in the magazine. We are the featured bread for the BLT. Yeah.
Now tell me about Breadworks.
Well, Breadworks was founded in September of 1994. It was founded by at the time, about a 25-year-old not-for-profit that previously had been known in the area by the name of Workshop 5, and in about 1990 it morphed into a more modern-sounding concept of WorkSource Enterprises. At the time, they were looking for ways to employ persons with disabilities, so they identified several businesses that they would attempt to do. At the time, there were entrepreneurial loans from the state to fund these projects, and so that's how we got started.
Wow. Now, what do you make now? All kinds of breads?
All kinds of
sweets?
things. About the only thing we don't do are wedding cakes.
Wow. So it's a full-service bakery? Local delivery?
Delivery, commercial delivery, and lunches. We do a lot of lunches. We have a deli and retail business, as well as our wholesale that we maintain a route for.
Now, I know you get some rosemary from me, so you're using some local farm products also.
We do. We've used your rosemary for years, as you're well aware, and use it in several of our breads, and we do publicize it. People are excited about the whole local green movement, so it fits right in.
How did Harvest Moon get started? It used to be like downtown on Main Street or something, and
well,
now
we were kind of affiliated with the Blue Moon Diner, or I owned that restaurant for a long time. I still do own it, and I'm in a partnership now, and so I've turned a lot of my attention to the catering company about 4 or 5 years ago. And now I've got some great chefs in the kitchen that have taken over my position, and I have put in place a purchasing chef now. So we have somebody who's actually doing the sourcing and really spending time looking to meet farmers and local, purveyors and stuff like that. So my attention is turned to more. Actually, I can actually run my business a little bit more, and there are a lot of people who are helping to do a really great job for us throughout the operational side of it.
Well, you had some beautiful food here tonight.
Thank you.
For a launch of Edible Blue Ridge, a new local magazine. Tell us about your relationship there.
Well, that kind of came about through Lisa Reeder, who you probably know with the Local Notion. And Lisa has been somebody that I have sequestered to help our company sort of go through the phases of, for lack of a more interesting term, greening up, I guess, or being a little more environmentally conscious, to being smart and marketing our company in the natural way that we're seeing today a lot by suggesting that we're using local produce. And the idea has been in my head for years and years. it took me a while to get my business organized, so I'm kind of coming to it at a point when I think it's already been spearheaded by a lot of great people in the last 10 years or so, and it's really moving, yourself included. And yeah, I'm just happy to kind of jump on board and push the agenda, which I think a lot of other people in our town are really aware of and putting a lot of good effort into making it happen.
So you're really getting catering jobs from businesses that are interested in this philosophy.
I think people are responding to it, and it pays for itself because of the business we get by acting a little bit more responsibly.
That's interesting.
So,
now you've moved into the front end of the old Monticello Dairy building, this like turn of the century white and black tile and wonderful little kitchen over there.
It's a great kitchen. I have to admit that at the end of the day, my desire is to find I have my offices are above the Blue Moon Diner. My kitchen is in the front of the dairy building. I have some space behind the dairy building in the netherworlds of that building.
Right.
and so I have to admit, my hope is to one day find the facility that will bring us all together. But in doing so, I would hope that that facility is something that I can work with from a ground up concept, and I can sort of try to do a little bit more with the energy use, with the water capturing, with the second, with using gray water and stuff like that. And so I'd like to not only put some of these practices into how we cook, how we purchase, how we throw things away or recycle them or reuse them, but also in sort of the energy waste that possibly a fresher or cleaner building could provide us with. So,
well, maybe we can get together and we can put a greenhouse on your roof to use your waste energy, and we'll take the compostable materials and make some soil mix and grow the herbs right there on the building.
Absolutely, and hopefully we'll have water catching on top of the roof so that we can
nice rainwater.
Yep, that we can do that, and then we could put a coil heat in the roof, and we could actually heat from below. So yeah, we can do some geothermal. We can do all sorts of things, can't we? So,
well, let's go over to Blue Moon Diner and have a meal and talk about some of this stuff, and then maybe after that you can take us and show us your facilities for Harvest Moon.
That would be fantastic. We'd love to. We'd love
Terrific.
to. Anytime. And yeah, I appreciate the time.
All right. Anything else that you think is important to? You have a website, or how do people contact you for
www.hmcatering.com, Harvest Moon Catering. And we just got great people across the board. We've got planners, we've got purchasing agents, and anybody who requests things that we're talking about tonight, local foods and stuff, we're happy to do. And honestly, when we can, we use it as often as we possibly can. So sometimes price is an issue. I think we all know that it's a little more expensive, and I think we're trying to get the American palate to understand the value of that extra dollar. I guess we could discuss, a few extra dollars on the front end is a lot of dollars generating in our communities. And so even though it may seem a little more expensive on the front side, it's probably not as expensive in the long run, and probably brings a lot more to our communities. So tonight we used Everona Dairy out in Rapidan. We used some cheese from down in Galax at Meadow Creek Dairy, and we used Gail Hobbs-Page, who you just spoke with, I believe, from Caramont Farm. And we used her goat cheese. And then we used, tonight we used Roundabout Farm, was the butternut squash soup. We made some arugula pesto with some of their arugula. We used the lettuce and tomatoes from a little place called Planet Earth Diversified. We used some bacon that we ended up having to purchase locally because we couldn't find it. We purchased at the organic butcher, but we couldn't get it direct from any of the local farmers. Actually, Griffin's Air was out, so good for them because they're selling it at least. What else did we use tonight? We used, our bread was from Breadworks. We used bread from Albemarle Baking. Tonight was a good event because I think that on the whole, if you can reach 20% of your purchasing being local, that's a pretty good thing. If you can reach 50%, 60%, you're doing really well. And tonight we probably got 80%, 85% of our product tonight that was put out on the tables was brought from local farmers this time around. So that's a really good, that's a high percentage, I think, especially when you're sourcing from 7 and 8 different places, which is not the easiest thing to do. We do probably 2 times a year, our entire staff actually, we go on a field trip. And we like to visit the local farmers and sort of bring our staff. And actually, I believe you'll see some of these pictures up on our website. And again, I've been working with Lisa Reeder, as I mentioned before, and Lisa's been a great resource. And I have suggested that we want to bring our staff closer to this concept, because to a lot of them, work is work. And I think if we can build that relationship and the understanding of why maybe work is more than just work, we're hoping that we get a happier employee, maybe a better employee. Not always the case, but
well, that's great.
But we try, and we believe in it. We do believe in kind of giving back educationally, and we believe that actually our staff and our employees, and equally as much from the farmers, I think they enjoy meeting each other and sort of understanding who they are and what they're doing and what they're trying to do. And so we've had some real success with that.
So tell us about the horse and buggy produce, your program of delivering produce to people, and also I know we've met out at the Shenandoah Produce Auction several times. Sure. And you are the big buyer out there. I mean, they won't even start the auction if Brett's not there. So tell us about the auction and what you're doing with horse and buggy. And
well,
there's like 600 families you feed. Or
1,200.
So 1,200 families.
Yeah.
And just in Charlottesville or a large
Charlottesville and Lynchburg.
Wow.
And it has been astounding how quickly it's grown. We essentially, in a nutshell, the way horse and buggy works is I recognized that there were a tremendous number of farmers in our area within 100 miles of Charlottesville that wanted to be farmers, like I was at one point. I loved growing, but I really wasn't enamored with all the marketing that went along with growing all of the produce that I was producing. And I met more and more farmers that were complaining about this issue, that they wanted just to farm. And so I realized I could provide a lot of people with a whole lot of variety from this area. And that's how it all began. And it's just been wonderful, how well it's been received. And I feel fantastic about how many people we employ, and giving back to the community in that respect, keeping money in the local community, and all the farmers that we support through zero-interest loans, and just through purchasing, providing a vehicle and a market for all the good stuff that they're growing for us.
Wow.
And while most of our produce up until this point has come from this order of, or this community of Old Order Mennonites near Harrisonburg, more and more we are getting farmers outside of that community, local farmers calling us. Some of them are hobby farmers, some of them are real career farmers who say, you know what, would you be interested in, I'm growing X, would you be interested? And we, are always, with resounding absolutely, tell us more. So it's really wonderful what's going on, and we can bridge that gap between the farmers and the consumers, just to provide that vehicle, literally, for them to gain access to all this wonderful stuff.
There's a lot of people that are very concerned about where their food comes from. There's so many stories out there. They hear about the recalls. They hear about food from China.
Right.
They want to know where their animals were raised. They want to know what kind of quality and how they were raised and who raised them and all of that sort of thing. My family had hired me to be a farm manager to look after the place. And I'd done that for a few years and done some, logging contracts and building fences and making leases and stuff like that. And I didn't like the way the farmers that we had 3 different farmers that were leasing parts of the farm, and I didn't think that they were treating the land very well. And I'd heard about Joel, I'd read one of his books, and so I sought him out, saw that he was at a point of growing, rapid growth, and needed to expand, and I said, Joel, why don't you come over and look at our place? I think this would work out very well for you. And it's about a half an hour away. And we worked out a lease, and all the other leases were expiring. When they expired, we leased at the Polyface, and now we doubled the size of his land holdings at that point.
Wow.
And
now, is this for the chickens or the chickens and the beef together?
No, it's mostly beef. It's all beef, just beef. Okay. And did a bunch of infrastructure improvements, and I think that we have I mean, we have our differences, different ways of looking at things for sure, but we definitely have a comparable vision. Some of the ecological values that we have, you know, we had already gone through the prep program, fenced out most of the drainage areas in the farm, and that was very compatible with Joel's vision of how to do things. And I started talking to him about other things, other entrepreneurial efforts. I was in the middle of trying to make a life change. I was partway through an MBA program, and a unique startup MBA program, first of its kind in the nation, MBA in Sustainable Business through the Bainbridge Graduate Institute, which was an institute that's only been around, I guess today, about 7 years out in Seattle. I probably earned about half the credits toward an MBA, and so I was thinking about entrepreneurial activities and opportunities, and he said, well, let's go take a look at that, you know. And let's go look at this processing plant. And I was intrigued. My family loves food. We're foodies to the max. You know, I got several cousins trained in Paris as chefs, and my brother's a wine importer, and food is definitely, my grandfather worked in hotel kitchens and that sort of thing. And we have an inspector on site. We have a VDAX inspector. They go through the partnership program, the Talmadge-Aiken Act. We are allowed to be a USDA inspected plant with a state inspector performing the inspection.
Okay.
We have a
so you don't have to have a USDA man on site. You've got a Virginia guy.
No,
on
in
site.
Virginia they're a partnership state, so Virginia puts their own people there, and it's great. I mean, Annie is our inspector. She's a licensed veterinarian. She's a farmer herself, so she knows what the farmers are going through. She touches every single animal that comes out. She comes in the morning, she goes through our barn, looks at every single animal that's come in.
Well, Joe, this has been great talking to you, and we can't wait to get to the plant and actually see everything in operation and meet these special people, some characters you've described.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got the old generation that you've taken over from.
It's a very interesting place.
Okay.
Very interesting place. So I'd love to have y'all come out and show you around.
So now we've seen interviews from a number of the vendors and farmers from the launch at Edible Blue Ridge. Steve, tell us what's coming up.
Well, our summer issue will be out in July. Obviously, that's going to be a big issue. There's so many great stories to tell in summer, obviously, with all the great local producers and food artisans really at the height of their season.
Yeah.
And we'll tell even more great stories like the stories you got with the people at our launch party. That was back in winter. They weren't so busy. Now they're really busy, but they still found time to tell us their stories, and we're really looking forward to sharing them.
Okay, Steve, so what are we looking at here?
Well, the same way we traced all the local ingredients in the Stanton grocery dish in the last issue, in the summer issue, because it is summer, we're tracing all the local ingredients in a locally produced ice cream. I thought it was perfect for summer, so we'll be tracing the milk and the honey that actually sweetens the ice cream, and the local berries that go into it. So we're really looking forward to that, and we think people will instantly get very hungry when they see that piece.
So now what are we looking at, Steve?
We also have a feature in the summer issue on a local artisan vinegar producers. It's amazing when you sort of look around here how much of local food and almost everything you have in your refrigerator at home that you can actually find from a local producer in Central Virginia. We were very excited to find and tell the story of somebody who is a couple who are making local artisan vinegar.
That's terrific. So coming up in Edible Blue Ridge, ice cream and vinegar for the summer issue.
That's right. Don't necessarily put them together, though.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve, for talking with us today on Meet the Farmer TV.
Thank you, Michael. It was a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for another Meet the Farmer TV. And check out these great new feature stories in the current issue of Edible Blue Ridge here in Central Virginia.
Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by Planet Earth Diversified, Melli Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design, with additional support from Culpeper's Channel 21, helping to preserve the agricultural history of Virginia, and Feast, connecting local farmers, artisan food producers, and consumers.